I'm really excited. I know you can see a smile, and it's really sincere, because we got a chance to do something special to get this momentum that we have in the county and intensify it right here in Rossville. I'm fired up about this. Thanks for everybody that came out. And we're going to have a great meeting today. And I want to turn the mic over to our commissioner, Shannon Whitfield. Shannon, you ready? Come on up here. My name's Robert Wardall. I'm your economic and community development guy. And I got cards up here, and about probably 30% of the folks in here already know you, but the ones that I don't, I've been able to introduce and meet most of the rest of you. And if not, we're going to stick around after the meeting's over. So here's Shannon.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate all y'all being here. This is a great turnout. We had our first event last night down on West Cove Road at the community center down there. We had about 43 show up, and so it was a great attendance, great turnout. As we get started, I wanted to introduce some of our other team members that are here tonight. We have Matt Williamson here is over our policy and legal counseling all from the county. And then we have Chief Hodge, Blake Hodge is back there toward the back. He's our fire chief. Raise your hand again, some people didn't see you. He's our fire chief and EMA director. And then Joe LeGee's there in the back. He's our public relation and handles all of our media things. And then also we have Michael Smith, who works in our public works department and tries to keep all the potholes filled. He does a great job in that department. I know we may have a couple of others that may make it with us, but we try to bring a few of our team members with us each time. Also from the city of Rossville, I saw Rick Buff earlier. Where's Rick Buff at? Thank you, Rick. He's on the city council here in Rossville. Appreciate you being here tonight. And then Elizabeth Wells does economic development and community development for the city of Rossville. And then last but not least, we have, who else on this?
You got Michael Hicks.
Oh yeah, Michael, I'm sorry, Michael, I saw you earlier. There's Michael Hicks, he's also on the city council in Rossville. Appreciate you coming tonight. Any other elected officials that made it tonight?
Our mayor. Mayor.
Yeah, we'll get him. No, I was saving Mayor Harris for last on purpose. He knows why. Is there any other elected officials here tonight? Okay. I had asked Mayor Harris to do something real special for us tonight. One of the things that we like to do at all of our public meetings is we like to acknowledge our freedom in this country. And the freedom to be able to have the flag in our presence, and the freedom to be able to pray in public.
Amen.
So I have asked Mayor Harris to come up and lead us in the pledge to our United States flag. So if you'll please stand and join us as Mayor Harris leads us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. That's something I think that a lot of us take for granted, we just don't think about. And there's a lot of people that have paid the ultimate sacrifice and is giving dearly to this country to allow us to be able to assemble in publicly without being in fear, be able to pledge to the flag, and also to be able to assemble and pray in public. So if you'll bow with me, I'd like to lead us in prayer. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. Lord, just thank you for all that you do for us. Lord, thank you for just a great turnout. It's so encouraging to see that people want to get involved in their local community and in their local government. And Lord, it's just refreshing to see and know that there's this many people in this community that want to be part of a positive change. And Lord, we just pray tonight that we have a lot of sick people in our community, Lord, we have a lot of people that are suffering, and Lord, you know each and every one of their hearts and each and one of their ailments. And Lord, we just want to lift them up to you tonight and ask a special prayer for their healing. And Lord, we just pray for their families and their caregivers, and Lord, we just lift those up to you as well. Lord, again, this is a special night. This is us talking about moving our community forward. And Lord, we just pray that everything that is said and done here tonight, Lord, will honor and glorify you. And Lord, just help us utilize this time to come together as a community. And Lord, we just pray for safe travel on our way home. And we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, before we get started, we've got kind of a public service announcement we want to show you. And so we've got a video queued up here real quick. And Joe, make it happen.
Hi, I'm Joe Legee, and welcome to How Walker Works, an inside look at how government operates here in Walker County, Georgia. While most people associate Walker County Fire Rescue with fighting fires and emergency response, the department also actively works to prevent fires.
Because we want to save lives. I mean, that's just the bottom line. We want to save property, but we want to save lives.
Along with visits to schools and community events, building inspections, and safety training for local businesses, this county department also offers a free residential smoke alarm program.
We're going to go out to your home. We're going to do a home safety survey, and we're going to make sure you don't have any hazards in your house, and we'll put in the smoke alarms they need. It's that easy.
Smoke alarms are given out and installed for free. There are no income restrictions. You just have to make the call to receive a potentially life-saving device.
If you need them, we'll come install ours. If you have them, if you can afford to buy them and you have them, we'll come install them for you. If you don't need to climb on a ladder because you're elderly, we'll do that for you.
5 fire-related fatalities occurred in Walker County in 2018. Fire investigators did not find working smoke alarms where those deaths occurred.
The ones we have are good for 10 years. They have a sealed battery. You don't have to change the battery. All you have to do is push the button once a month and test them and make sure they're working. If your smoke alarms aren't working, you may as well not have them.
Walker County firefighters installed 228 smoke alarms in 2018. If you need one, make the call. Dial 706-539-1255. The life you save may be your own. I'm Joe Legee. Be sure to check out walkercountyga.gov for other How Walker Works features and county information.
Thank you, Joe. I hope y'all were able to hear that. I know the volume was kind of low for some of you in the back. But folks, in 2018, there was 5 fatalities due to fire. And as the video indicated, all 5 of those deaths, when they did the investigation, there was no working smoke alarms in those houses. 4 of those deaths come from this community off of Dry Valley, or on Dry Valley Road. And it's a tragedy that we've got houses in our community where there's not smoke alarms. And so this is a campaign that's been going for several months now that we want to try to bring more emphasis to. And we had some of our staff and volunteers that did a door-to-door campaign this past Saturday up and down Dry Valley Road, practically almost to the point of just begging people, please let us put a smoke alarm in your house. It's free. There's no income restrictions, there's no requirements. There's not anything other than the fire department has to install those so they make sure they're installed properly. But I think y'all did 57?
53, 26 homes, 53.
Yeah, 26 homes they were able to install them in, and 53 smoke detectors. And so we were working with the Red Cross. They have donated these to our community to be able to put these out. And about a week or so ago, I asked Chief Hodge, I said, what happens if we run out of smoke alarms? He said, I'm not going to worry about that. He said, well, if we have to buy smoke alarms, he said, if we have to forgo something in the budget, he said, we're going to make sure we've got smoke alarms regardless, even if the Red Cross grant runs out. It's that important to our fire safety people because they know it saves lives. And it's very tragic for them to go on site and have to deal with those type of circumstances after the fact. They would much rather knock on the door or come in with a step ladder and help on the front end. So just want to put that out there. So if you need smoke alarms, let us know. Or if you know family, friends, neighbors, this is for anybody in Walker County. We want to be there to serve you this way. All right, so we got that out of the way. So now it's your time. So we want to hear from you. We want to find out from you what you feel like is going good, what you feel like we could do better, what you think we're missing, and where do you think we ought to be 10 years from now. So we want to give you the time to come to the microphone so everybody can hear you. I know we're in here kind of tight, but we want everybody to be able to hear. So if you would come up and address the whole group here tonight, because we're all family and friends and neighbors. So I want everybody to feel at home and feel comfortable. So we want you to come up. And like I say, we've got several team members here, and we want to talk to you tonight and hear from you. So who's first? Miss Masuki? That was the quickest hand I had seen in a long time.
I wasn't planning on doing this, but I wanted to start this meeting off on a very positive note, especially since Chief Hodge is here. The school system, as part of our initiative, and I'm not really with the school system, but there was a real need in our community for heaters. We have some children that are living in homes that are not properly heated. And so we did this campaign called Heaters for Hope. And so we were sharing that with Regina Dorsey, who was in this little clip. And she came up with a great partnership with our fire department that they would deliver the heaters to the families, make sure they had a workable smoke alarm, and do an orientation with the family to make sure they could properly and safely work their heater. So I just want to give a kudo to Chief Hodge, because this is a great example of just one thing going on in our county that's very positive, where they saw an opportunity to become partners with us. And I don't know how many heaters have been delivered, but during that cold spurt that we had last week, I think there were several. So I just want to say thank you publicly to your department for partnering with this. Thank you.
So who's next? Who wants to come up and speak next? Now come on now, don't everybody be shy. Come on. Just come on, Mr. Page.
Just have a few questions and don't have answers. Okay. And I'm sure these are all covered. Do we have subdivision regulations in the county? Subdivisions.
Subdivision?
Yes, do you build roads that are 50 feet wide and make sure they exceed a standard or meet a standard when you take them over and make a county road out of it? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so to make sure everybody can hear in the back, what he's asking is there are regulations in Walker County for subdivisions, and then he kind of expanded on that as far as the county taking over the responsibility of the roads in that subdivision. So it wouldn't necessarily just pertain to a subdivision necessarily, but it would be any road that someone wanted to have the county take over and maintain going forward in the county. And yes, there is a guidelines and policies. So if anybody has a road that is currently private that they want to have converted over to a county road, there is a specification and a process through the planning department that has to be followed. And it talks about the base and the thickness of the asphalt and the stormwater and the drainage, and there's quite a bit to it. But there is an existing policy in place for that.
The other question about that, I know that roads are expensive, and when you take a road, if they don't meet that, it costs the county. And prior to you coming into office, do you know how many roads were taken?
We can't hear the question.
Okay, how many roads were taken prior to Shannon taking office that did not meet a standard? That happens in a lot of cases, and I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and that did happen on December 29th of 2016, because I sat there and had to bite my tongue and witness that. There was probably 6 or 7 roads that were taken by the former administration over by the county on December the 29th of 2016, 4 days before I officially took office, and I would say I know of at least 4 of those that did not meet those standards.
Well, that's commonplace. It happens. The other things that I've noticed, and I think we all have, and they may be something in the statute that you can't do anything, but the salvage yards have not been from even 20 years ago. They did not put in the coverage of their areas, and it may be a law that says they don't have to if they've been there so long. But I've noticed that that's not been an improvement in our area up here. And there's other things that I don't know about. I see cars parked in driveways more than one, without license, without tires. I saw a truck tonight on the way over here, and it's a junk. Now, are we doing anything about those?
Let me step back just on the junkyard thing real quick. There is an ordinance that was put in place many, many years ago for junkyard regulations, and part of that, when he refers to as covering, is basically vision coverage. So when you drive by the junkyard, that you're not seeing all the junk. And so there's definitely a deficiency in our county for the junkyards being in compliance for that. And that's an area as a community that we need to work on to improve, because a lot of those junkyards have gotten very lax on that. And so that's definitely an area that needs to be improved. And your second one, I lost my train of thought.
Junk cars.
Oh, junk cars, yes. Oh, thank you, because that's a huge, yes. Right now, the ordinance that was put in place in 2004 states that you can have in your yard, in a residential area, up to 2 junk vehicles that are not licensed or tagged or insured. And so we've got some current debate going on about that right now, and I'm glad that come up here toward the top of the menu here. How do y'all feel about that? Because that's affecting your property values, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the vehicle has to be kept up. Like you say, sometimes they don't even have the wheels or tires on them. Sometimes it may not even be a complete vehicle. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a vehicle. It could be a boat that's been there for the last 20 years that's not properly tagged and insured. It could be a truck. I mean, it could be anything basically that's on wheels that is a form of transportation or a motorized type vehicle. But I get a lot of questions about that, and we are looking at, and it's one reason why we wanted to have these events, to have that discussion about that very thing. Are y'all okay with that?
Zero.
So you think zero, so looking for a zero. How many, let's just show of hands, so we get a good feel here. How many feels like it ought to be a zero policy? Get rid of the junk. Okay. All right. How many thinks 2 is the right number? All right. How many thinks you ought to be able to just at least have 1? Okay, so we do have a few hands there, but overwhelmingly 0. Yes, sir.
I own property in East Street. If you have a junk car, I have a rental property and my tenant had a car that didn't run. And East Street sent somebody over there, left him a notice, and said, we'll be back on Tuesday, this car better run. If you don't, you're gonna get a fine. And it's gonna go up every day until you get it fixed. And I know that because they sent me the citation, because I own the property. So they don't put up with it. If the car don't run, it's gotta be up there.
good point. Very good point.
Because why do you want to jump sitting there?
Right. And I don't understand fully why the ordinance in 2004 was put in to allow 2. It doesn't make sense to me, but, yes, sir.
Shannon, I want just to ask everyone, does it matter, should it be considered whether it's seen or not? If people have these, if it's hidden back, or does that make no difference? I'm just asking an opinion. Does that?
Okay, so in case you couldn't hear him in the back, what Robert's indicating, just trying to get a consensus again, what about if the ordinance was modified to say you can have up to 2 junk vehicles as long as they're out of sight of the road?
No, because they haul garbage in.
How many thinks that would be a positive change? Okay, just a few. Okay. Be a step in the right direction, I'm hearing, but not the ultimate solution. Okay, that's good to know. Yes, ma'am.
I have something as well, to stay focused with what he is talking about.
Okay.
The junkyards. there's no, if they are cited, there's no follow-up for that. We live in a situation to where, and, you know, and I don't mind calling names, if you're guilty, you're guilty. Extreme Auto out on Wilson Road. And he has got so many tires that are piled up. Actually, some of them are on our property, some of them are on the neighboring property. That last summer, we could not go outside on that end of the property because of the mosquitoes.
Okay.
And I think he's been cited, I think he's been asked. And then even the tire amnesty did not help. I mean, he just makes no effort. And I have pictures on my phone, I climbed through that today.
Okay.
And I have called zoning about problems like that. And the comment to me was, we have been told to say that it has been reviewed. It's like a robot. And I don't mean to be ugly, you know, y'all want the truth, you're gonna get it. So, you know, that's not good enough. You know, when we try to approach them to get follow-up, you know, they don't say anything back except it's been reported.
Okay.
I don't wanna go through another summer out there paying the property taxes that we pay and can't get something done with that junk. And it's the same with the house, I'll just go ahead and say all mine because it's about the junk. The property on Wilson Road, the houses north of the junkyard, it's the same situation. The back of those houses are terrible. The bags of garbage, toads, lumber piled up, rats. It is just a major issue, you know, and I'd like to see something done about
Okay,
that.
so.
We even offered to help him clean up the tires, and we got zero.
So what she's talking about, so everybody can hear, just to recap, is Extreme Junkyard on Wilson Road. This is one of their neighbors, and the amount of tires that's just laying around that's gathering water, which is going to allow for the mosquitoes to multiply. Folks, tires in our community has been a big problem. It's been a big focus the last 2 years, and that's why we've had those tire amnesty days. We was able to get grants from the Georgia Department of Environmental, or EPD, to allow us to be able to have that a fully funded grant. And so we have applied to do 2 more of those in 2019, and we're waiting approval on that now. And hopefully we'll be able to have 2 more tire amnesty days. But the mosquito population is a big deal, and it has been a big focus, and also just the roadside pickup of tires. And so we're trying to get as many picked up and cleaned up as we can. So just so y'all know, so I don't have to remember everything, because we're going to have a lot tonight, Matt's making notes for us, so he's logging all these things, and so we'll go back and put this on a task list, so y'all don't have to worry about me remembering the details. Matt's our expert scribe here. Okay, just say, Robert?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify back to your question. I understand that you're not just talking about the amnesty, you're talking about ordinances
Yes,
that have teeth
Yes, sir.
that get things done.
With a follow-up.
For businesses,
To that,
Yes.
with
junkyards have too
I
many
just want to
tires.
make sure you know that I'm hearing what you're saying right there. It's not
Well,
just that, you're talking about the ordinances, and I guess sometime during the night, we're gonna talk about the team that's put together to work on this, and I think you'll be encouraged by it.
yes, and I want to readdress my comment, and I'll go ahead and say what I gotta say, and then I'll be done. The comment that I made about the property taxes. None of us like to pay more.
Right.
I don't have a problem with, you know, what they go up. I understand that they have to go up. And I have lived here as a child since 1962. And, you know, I'm happy with Walker County. But you inherited a mess, and I commend you.
Well, hold, just one thing.
Well,
We inherited it. That's why I'm glad all of y'all are here. So, okay, go ahead.
I appreciate your hard work in reducing the debt as much as it has been reduced.
Yes, thank you.
So, and I know it's not easy, but, you know, I don't want my comment about property taxes to be taken as a negative thing. You know,
No, it's been a team
it's
effort.
got-
Everything we do is a team effort. There's no way, I mean, it takes all departments, all elected officials, and budgeting, and everything to make that happen. So let's stick to junk for just another moment. Did you have something about junk? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just I just want to put an exclamation point on what you said about extreme. I've had more than a few lost calls going down that road, people backing out. They can't see because there's so many cars.
Yeah, and that's been an issue, and that's one of the challenges we've got there on Wilson Road is the right-of-way is so narrow. And so code enforcement actually went out and spray painted for them on both those junkyards on the north end of Wilson Road a few months ago and showed them where that was. And that's as far back as we can get them, but honestly, it's just a few feet. It's really not what we would all desire. But by the way, when the road was put in and the width of the right-of-way is only just a few feet, but we did get them to get all their vehicles back past that marker at both of those locations. And I know there's been a couple of follow-ups on that, but that was a huge, huge safety concern. And we'll have to continue to monitor that to make sure that stays like it's supposed to.
It's still a problem.
Okay, we'll follow up on that. Yes, sir, about jump?
Yes, I was about the lady's tire. It's actually more for the fire department chief. If the tires are excessive, does that not become a fire safety hazard?
Absolutely.
Do you not have the authority to do something about that?
We have to work within the code enforcement office. If it catches on fire, I do.
Yes.
But I can't do anything. It falls under the code as far as it being cleaned up prior to.
So the question was, is it a fire hazard? And the fire chief's saying yes. If it catches on fire, then he can get involved. But up until that point, it's a code issue at this point.
Unless we put it in the ordinance that the fire.
Yeah, unless the ordinance is updated.
Unless it's updated.
Speaking of which, Joe, you got that one slide. I want to talk about this. Robert alluded to it a minute ago. We've put a great team together that's going to be taking some of this notes and information and their own knowledge and expertise and input. We've put an advisory team together, Vision 2030. And this team's going to be looking at a lot of these old ordinances, and a lot of this they're going to be looking at is talking about the junk vehicles. So they've already had their first meeting, got their second meeting scheduled coming up. And so I want you to be aware of who is all on this team so you can also be reaching out to them as well, because they're volunteering their time and taking and giving back to the community. So I'm just tickled to death that they were willing to serve in this capacity of looking into this and coming up and being able to make recommendations of what we need to do to make these ordinances to meet the 21st century needs. So here we are. So they're going to be looking at public nuisance, property rights, future developments. And so we're trying to not look at just where we are today, but look at going forward. And that's why we're calling it Vision 2030, is going forward. So we've got Philip Cantrell, Scott McNabb. Scott's here tonight. Stanley Matthews, David Roden, who you all know is here tonight. Bobby Teams is with us tonight. Elizabeth Wells is with us. And also Matt Williamson. So over half this team is here tonight. So any additional comments after the meeting, get with them and you can have an influence on how this goes forward. Yes, ma'am.
I have a problem about junk.
Junk, okay.
We live on Happy Valley Road, and we lived there for 58 years. North of us, as you go down, the houses and the cars, it's unreal in the junk. And I have been talking to the Coast Department for 8 years, and I have seen no change.
Well, and I totally agree, but if they've got cars, because here's what's happening to codes. The codes department is frustrated with the cars as well. Because if somebody's got 2 junk vehicles in the yard, code enforcement comes out, they can't do anything about that junk vehicle. If there's 3, they say you gotta get rid of one.
No, one of the ladies that was on the Coast Department, she was very nice. She came up, this has been several years ago, and she called me back and told me she had talked to me about how long, they have to clear this up. But nothing's changed. In fact, there's more cars.
It's rental property, and they live in Tennessee.
We happen to know that most of those are rental property, and the people live in Tennessee.
But does it go back, I mean, you said it was looked at several years ago. Has anybody been there in the last 2 years, do you know?
I know of.
Okay.
We sent you a letter 4 months ago, but hadn't heard no response from you yet. We told you we wanted a response, but we didn't get it. The address, the letter to you, but we hadn't heard anything.
But these places also, some of them have trucks, and the trucks are full of garbage.
Okay.
Then
Yeah,
when
they
the
can't
garbage
be,
is
they can't be
there-
stockpiling garbage.
Talking about 50 bags.
Yeah, they can't be stockpiling garbage.
But it's been that way.
Since you're right there close to Matt, make sure he gets that address or what your address is so he can look into that.
Shannon, may I say something real quick
Yes.
on this? Because it's going straight to what she's talking about. It's important to really understand right here that we're talking about the codes people can't really do anything till we change the ordinances. This is what's really serious here. We're not playing around here. We're about to update these codes to reflect the needs of the community.
How quick do you change them?
I don't know how long it's gonna
Well, right
take.
there's a commissioner, he's the sole authority in the county.
Well,
But there is a process. There is a process.
Think about this team isn't just to look pretty. This team are some smart people from all around the county to advise, because you might think real quick, I may say, I want this. Well, that's just my thought. And then somebody might say, well, if you thought about what that means to other people. So you gotta take this, I don't mean slow as in months, but we're not gonna knee-jerk and affect other people's lives without thinking it all the way through. And that's why this team is here, to be honorable to everybody in their interest for the best for the county overall. And I just want y'all to know, this is serious when you start changing the whole codes. You're not messing around there.
It's serious to us too.
Yes,
We've been
sir.
talking about it for 10 years. Administration before this administration, we talked about it. And some of them in the other administration actually laughed at us.
Well, that's why we're moving forward.
Yeah,
That's why we're moving forward, because we could spend a week talking about the past mistakes, but to talk about what you're addressing here, the process, once the documents are ready, once the team and the legal counsel works through the documents and we say, hey, this is what we want to move forward publicly of changing any ordinance on any topic, there has to be a county ordinance change. It has to be advertised in the local paper, which is the Walker County Messenger. It has to be advertised for a minimum of 2 weeks. We have to have a minimum of 2 public meetings in the county seat. So it'd be in the city of Lafayette. So we typically hold those prior to or at the start of the commissioners' meetings that we have twice a month. So basically, once it's all documented and ready to go, you might as well say it's about a 30-day process to get it effective. Because you've got to give that public notice and you've got to have those public meetings and it's got to be in the minutes and so forth to get that process
Well, I
done.
understand that, but I think anybody that's got a brain rides up Walker County from Chattanooga and rides around this north end, it wouldn't take but about a day to figure out what codes would be changed to. And if you're waiting to 2030 to get all this.
Oh, no.
Well, I know Vision 2030 seems like it's never going to get done, it just pushes it out. But we've got a serious problem on the north end. Number one, I worry about our property values, and we look like a dump coming out of Chattanooga. All about those junkyards. You've been in office for 2 years, and I have not seen one improvement on the north end of the county, except maybe a few tires. I'm not hammering you, I'm just telling you. If you ride out there from Chattanooga, those 2 junkyards sitting down there, you talk about them pushing them back. I was there yesterday.
Give me the mic, we can't hear that. Give me the mic.
They're already back up the street. Another thing about junkyards is the way they look. Make an ordinance to put an 8-foot fence around them where you can't see them. Well, if they've got an ordinance, they need to
They're not
have
enforcing
sheriffs up there, stopping their business or lift their license. But y'all need to take some teeth, quit talking about it, and take some action.
Joe, you got that slide on the progress on the cleanups? There's not a slide I want y'all to see, because you're right, and just like with blighted, burned out structures, which is a big issue.
Y'all on bulldozers?
We do.
Take them down.
And so we are working on that legal process. It was part of our task for starting in February. That's right, you got to do the legal process. And so what we have found is the existing ordinances that are in place is not worded to cover us to be able to do it the legal way. And so Matt Williamson has been working on that and on that draft, and we have a advertisement to come out. It's coming out in the paper tomorrow to give that public notice where we're making some changes to the existing ordinance to give the county the authority to take those property owners to magistrate court to start that process. And we're going to start out with 12 properties so we don't overwhelm the court system. And we've already got an established date. this first Monday of every month to go to magistrate court to deal with code issues. And so that's another big change we've made. Before, part of the stumble was, the way it was set up locally, is everything had to go to state court. Well, it wasn't happening, it wasn't flowing right. Matt come in and got to researching the state law, and he says, wait a minute, it's not even supposed to be in state court. So Matt worked for some time with the state court judge and the magistrate judges to get everybody on the same page, and we passed a resolution back 5 months ago or so, or an ordinance, I'm sorry, we passed an ordinance to get these cases back into magistrate court, because it also deals with animal issues. And so now, Matt goes every Monday, first Monday of every month, and goes to magistrate court, and he's already been handling these ordinance issues, and has quite a success record of getting through that. But we have a county that has been let go for so long.
That's why it takes some drastic action.
It is taking drastic action, but you can see in 2 years there was 819 code cases that were closed. That means those were properties that had issues out of compliance across the county. 819 of those have been closed out. But there was 2,326 citations, so we still got less than half to get back into compliance of the ones that have been inspected. The big thing here I want to point out to you, this is pretty amazing, where it says 49 community cleanup projects. Sometimes we run into situations where property is in bad shape, a lot of garbage and issues, and maybe the property owner is just not physically able to clean it up. Maybe extenuating circumstances, and they're just not physically able. So we can reach out to nonprofits, sometimes faith-based groups, for community projects. In the last 2 years, we had 49 of those projects where they went in on residential property, cleaned up 49 properties for over 113 tons that they hauled off to the landfill and documented. Litter control, just on the side of the road pickup, almost 123 tons in 2 years on litter control off of one team. That's one full-time employee working 3 to 4 county inmates. And so, 1st of March, we're putting a second team on, trying to double down our efforts because this is such an issue on getting the roadside cleaned up. And then you see the tire amnesty days were very successful, got over 12,000 tires. I figured that's probably about a third of them. I think there's probably twice that much again in tire cleanup. The litter cleanup and the haul off, I mean, we're probably not even 10%. So there's been a lot of movement, a lot of tonnage, but it's just like a needle in a haystack because there's just so much more.
But there's so many of those that were cleaned up, they back and must take them real.
That's going to happen. It could happen very easily. I think we need to let, you got anything else?
I've got 2 more issues, and I'm gonna go sit
I hate that we just have you standing up here. What you got next?
Well, I think that my next issue comes about on home inspections and changes in building permits and fire code, things of that nature. Years ago, I built a man cave on a creek. Nobody inspected it. What difference did it make? Now, if I did that today, I would hope that's not true. That someone would come out and say, here. Can you hear me all right now? But it needs to have an inspection anytime you make any significant changes to a home, and you've got some blighted homes that don't even meet the electrical code, much less a building code in this county, especially in this north end right now. They're all over the place. And the other thing, the electrical or your codes and people should be certified, and I'm sure they are, certified to do that kind of job. Okay, and the other one, and I'll go sit down, is I was concerned about the grants. I heard we got a grant on water. I know this is not direct to this. Are we getting a CDBG every other year?
Okay, going back to first thing you had, talking about home inspections. This was a big problem in 2017 because basically a person could throw up a structure, get a temporary power, we wouldn't know anything about it. The county government wouldn't know anything about it. Somebody could build a house, any type of building, any type of structure, power company would, hey, you need temporary power, let's do it. So we worked with our power partners and said, hey, we need your help. before you turn on power for someone, you need to make sure they have a permit. And so now they are doing that. They've partnered with us and said, hey, yeah, it's not a problem. And so when someone goes to get a temporary power or power connected in some form or fashion, the local power companies are saying, we need to see a permit. And so that's helping us greatly. But if you see structures being built in your community and you don't see that they've got a permit posted, let us know. Call the planning office, call the commissioner's office and say, hey, does so-and-so address have a permit? If not, we'll send a code inspector out there and stop the project. I was out with David about a month ago off of James Street. There was 2 remodel jobs, complete gut remodels. Neither one of them had permits. And the next morning, they both had permits because we stopped and talked to both of them and got them in the proper permits. And so as far as grants, we are working on some grants.
Do you get the CDBG every, 500,000 every other year?
No.
Which you're eligible for?
No.
Why don't you get it?
We have applied for some grant funding to try to work on our water system. We did get one emergency $500,000 grant that we did get just recently, I say within the last 6 months. And we are working on additional other grants, but typically, most of these grant processes take about 18 months.
Well, you're only eligible every 2 years.
I think that's correct.
Yes, I know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Gail Johnson, and I hate to pop your bubble. Shannon knows I'm pretty upset with him. I met with him April of 2018 about a problem I've had on my property. I've addressed it since 2015, so this isn't anything new. Michael Hicks, I hope you're listening, because I helped raise that young man back there. And I know a few other people in here too. Shannon knows I'm upset with him that I met with him almost a year ago and he never called me back. I called, I harassed his 2 girls in his office. They were at lunch. I never got a message. I've emailed him. I don't know what else to do. I mean, I'm pretty upset that he didn't call me back. I understand tonight that he gave my problem to someone else, but that doesn't matter that he gave it to someone else. What matters is he didn't pick up the phone and say, hey, Gail, you came down and met with me, and it was a problem, and I want you to know what I've done about it. Well, I didn't even get that. So I want you to know that action is not being taken care of. I am a peon compared to all these other problems he's got. But will you hold this for me, please? I met with him in 2015. I've been dealing with the environmental people. I have a new neighbor who has, I don't know what's happened, but he has decided to dump his water on my front yard. And since then, these are kind of dark, but I want you to see, I have to jump over this water in my yard, in my driveway to get to my mailbox. This is just a cold day. This is what I deal with. That's no big deal. What the deal is I have no dirt in my front yard. I have muck. Now, do you know what muck is? It's mold, nasty. I now have roach bugs in my front yard, and the water just keeps getting worse. I would like to seal my driveway. Can't seal my driveway because I don't know when this water's coming. It's pretty much 24/7. Oh, and I have a drain, and you have pictures too.
Yeah, but I didn't bring mine with me.
I know that. I've got a picture of a drain, and I've got pictures on my phone that I took just tonight before I came. Here's the drain.
See there right here, there's the plastic pipe right here. This is coming from the homeowner next door's house. And so this has been turned over to environmental health back in
Since
2015.
Or before that.
And when I called them in April, they come out and re-inspected it. They've also probably a couple of times done a water test.
I cannot tell you how many bottles that I have filled up for them, and they find no chlorine in it. No, they don't find anything in it. I don't care what they find in it. I've got a problem. And one of the guys told me that I needed to plant flowers in my front yard and do it that way. Then another guy said I could build a wall. And I'm going, and let me just put it this way to this young man. I said, what if I were your mother? And this was your mother's property, and you told your mother just to go build a wall, and it'll stop it. I mean, this was the environmental people. And I'm at my wit's end. And when I met with Shannon, I cannot tell you how thrilled I was that I thought, yay, I'm finally going to get something done. Shannon popped my bubble because I was quite impressed with him. But to give my problem to somebody else and not have the courtesy to call me and let me know what's going on, that's all I wanted. I didn't want 10, 15, 30 minutes on the phone with him. Just wanted to know where we stood. And for almost a year, I haven't got a call back, so that's why I'm here tonight. Anybody out there that can help me with this problem, I would greatly appreciate it.
Is it an underground spring?
No. I've lived there since 1974. It has not been a problem until this new neighbor bought the house. And in the house, he's had children, so I'm not so sure if it's not coming from the washer. But let me tell you, he has brought in logs and put on top of this. The logs are gone. They've sunk down to the ground. He's brought in rock, gravel, and I have a picture of it, and it's probably up this far, the rock that he put in there. It's all shrunk to the ground. It just is a cesspool. I have roaches. This pot is not far from my water shut off. So what does that mean? I'm going to have rusted stuff. So when I need to go cut my water off, or the Tennessee American Water people come and say, hey, something's wrong out there, it becomes my problem. And the roaches, the mosquitoes this past summer, we can't even cut my grass because the lawnmower just sinks down in my front yard. I can't walk on it.
Well, what you were getting at, and she said they pulled multiple samples and tested. They've been looking for soaps, chlorines, anything that showed it would be like a gray water coming from a washing machine or something. There's no indication of that. So all indications are, what I recall from environmental health, is that it is groundwater, and it's most likely from a sump pump. And so they have this pipe run out all the way to the edge of the road. Unfortunately, she's on the downhill side. And so with that pipe all the way out to the edge of the asphalt,
now, the environmental
it is
people haven't done
runoff.
this. He did. He put the pipe.
Right, they didn't put the pipe there, but
Environmental people have done nothing but bring little bottles out to
it's run off the test. And so with it being an environmental type issue like that, it was outside the jurisdiction of code enforcement. It's an environmental issue in case it was a septic system or gray water or something of that nature. And so the environmental, at the time that they tested this, looked at this, because they had quite an extensive file on it when I contacted them in April of 18.
and nothing's been done.
And it's like I mentioned to her earlier before the meeting started, I don't know if there's a regulation or an authority or government agency that has the ability to do anything about it.
EPA?
But there's nothing dirty or gray about the water or contaminant about the water.
Shannon?
Yes, sir.
She said her meter was right down from this. Could this possibly be a water leak in the main?
Well, that's why they checked for chlorine.
Well, chlorine wouldn't, sometimes it settles up through the soil.
But she's on the downhill side. I see what you're saying, and that's always
Coming down
a
Parallel
possibility.
Road.
He has.
But you can see the water coming out of this pipe.
He has drove his truck over this property, and I think he's broke something. I think something's broke. I think the house was built a long, long time ago, and I think the lines, and I don't know that much about building stuff, the lines need to go to, they need to be redone to where it's done correctly. And I just know if it was in your front yard and you had mosquitoes and roaches, and you can't even cut the grass now. I mean, your little lawnmower sinks down. It is so
Something that doesn't
saturated.
dry up during a dry season.
In a dry season, it's still bad.
That's why they think it was a sump pump or something, groundwater.
Dry season, some pump's not gonna pump water.
Yes.
Have you had the water company out to check for leaks?
You're on Tennessee American, aren't you?
I'm on Tennessee American, but it's not my leaks, it's
Well,
their
you had a
leaks.
leak.
There's never be your leak, there's just a leak in your area.
Yeah, I worked there for years. They've got a leak detection service And they'll come up and they'll sound that main up and down that road to see if there's any kind of leaks. And it, you know.
Yeah, so the Shasta is, since she's on Tennessee American, they've got the equipment to be able to leak test that system and see this may be part of it.
It's not a leak, it is this pipe he's hooked up that runs to the front of my yard. I have no dirt.
And if he don't give permission for somebody to come on and investigate on his property, I mean, they can't go on there without.
That's correct.
See, this is the pipe he has installed
And this
from
right,
under his driveway.
right out here is the road. So this is being discharged out to the road. No, because it's just like if you had gutter water coming off your driveway or your gutters or whatever, and you took a piece of black pipe and run it out to the edge of the road, and it runs downhill. This water's running downhill. Unfortunately, she's on the downhill side.
And I've been dealing with it since 2015. You know, there's so many people here that are so much smarter about this stuff than I am. It's been tested and been tested. I don't want it tested anymore. I want somebody to stop his water from I've got roaches, mosquitoes, we can't even cut the grass, I have no dirt there now. I have to jump over this ice when it's cold to get to my mailbox.
Yes, ma'am.
I would recommend calling Tennessee American Water first. If they don't respond in an appropriate manner, I will contact the TV station. I will get it broadcast.
Well, I almost did that because a lot of my friends had
They're here tonight. Where'd he go? There he is. He's back in the
A
back.
lot of my friends had said, you know, because I couldn't get Shannon to call me back. And they said,
I can fix almost everything in some form or fashion, but I can't fix this one, I'm afraid.
But the thing is that Shannon so encouraged me when I met with him. He said, it sounds like gray water. Oh, we're going to do something about it. And if they don't do something about it, we can cite them and we can fine them. And they will be fined every day until it's fixed.
If it had been gray water, that would have held true. But it doesn't test as gray water. Yes, sir.
So when that water coming out of his pipe, what is it? PVC pipe, right?
It's a plastic, corrugated, yeah, plastic corrugated. Okay.
We don't know.
We've already been here right in an hour. We're going to check into more of this tomorrow. So I've got her information, so we're going to get deeper into this
If
tomorrow.
you will promise to be in front of this group that you're going to call me.
We even got this on video right there.
Would be great.
We're going to look into it further. Thank you. Yes.
First, we got huge word off of the buildings with the junk when we went to this slide, and people were asking about the businesses that have all the junk. And early on, you had
Yes.
said, first you were going to do it to the residences, and then you would work on the businesses.
Yes.
Where are we on working on the businesses?
Good question. What the question is ordinances for junk for commercial properties or businesses. And that's one of the shortcomings of the current county ordinances is there's not the language in there that's needed to address junk or debris or unsightly things on commercial property. So when codes enforcement gets a call about a commercial piece of property, they have no jurisdiction. That's one of the reasons why we need the team and y'all's input to update and get these ordinances in place where we can adjust them.
Looking at that you're going to at least start on these ordinances.
They started last month.
And when do you think they'll be in effect?
We've got some changes that will be in effect in 30 days because you'll see an ad in the paper, the Messenger this week.
Businesses, not for rundown homes.
The first step is for the rundown homes to be able to give us the authority to take them to magistrate court. And then the next step is to refine these ordinances. So just as quick as the team can work with the legal counsel to get it done.
I don't know how we expect to get new businesses that want to come in when they come in and see businesses that look like garbage.
You're right.
I don't know why those ordinances weren't a priority over the others.
Shannon, we can't hear what you're saying.
Okay, she's saying she wants to know why these ordinances have not already been put into place, and why this has not been a priority. This has been a topic from day one, all this cleanup and everything, because that was one of the big things that come out of the Wilson Road group as an initiative and a focus was about the cleanup of our county. I mean, the Wilson Road group really spearheaded that initiative to try to move the county forward. And so that's one reason why we started with the property door-to-door inspection on the north of the county first, because that's where we had the most support from y'all to be able to do that. So it's still a long ways and a lot of tasks to
There's a lot of support for
go.
the businesses, and you get more money for the county if you were citing the businesses as opposed to door-to-door.
Well, we're not in it for the money. Let's be clear on
Money
that.
is a factor.
We're not in it for the money, because what we do, when we send code enforcement out and they give someone a citation for a violation, they typically will have a minimum of 30 days to clean up that property. They are told at that time that it's a warning citation and that they will be back in 2 weeks for a follow-up to check progress. And that, a lot of times that's just to show, hey, we've not forgot this, we're coming back, are you making progress? This is serious, because when the 30-day mark hits, you can be cited and actually receive a fine at that point. But we leave that to the discretion of the officer, because what can happen is if you have cold weather and it's 30 degrees, it's been pouring down rain, there's different circumstances, so we want to empower the officer to do the right thing and make the right decision. If he needs to give them a few more days, or if they're close and they just need another weekend, he has the authority to do that and follow up, because that's just the right thing to do. But if we get somebody that's just ignoring it, that's not taking it serious, that 30-day marks, they're going to get their first citation, and they're going to keep going back and going back.
Again, I'm trying to get a time frame from you on when you're gonna start enforcing it with the businesses.
We've got to get the ordinances in place first for the businesses.
And when we've been taking.
I mean, you said that was from day one, you've had this problem. Why are we 2 years into this now?
It's not fair. Why are we 2 years into your term and there is no ordinance there? You know you don't have the teeth for the businesses. Why have we had a delay?
It has been a goal from day one to get done, but we just had so many other priorities that we were working with, and this is a top priority for 2019. Our thing for 2019 is codes and roads. That's what our total focus is from our departments, is to improve our roads and clean up our county with code enforcement. That's why we put this team together, to help speed that process along. That's why we also have legal counsel full-time now. They can get these things moved so much faster. That was one of our stumbles in 2017, is we couldn't move things fast enough because there was so much legal work. We spent over $150,000 in outside legal counsel the first year, and I'm just like, we got to change this. This is way, way too expensive. And so bringing in-house counsel in has been less expensive. We're getting more bang for our buck, and we're able to move things much quicker. And so Matt's been on board about 9 months now, 10 months, and so we're starting to get that momentum
What is
going.
the time frame now, if you see having to make a business?
I hope it's done, and my personal goal would be if it could be done within the next 90 days. I mean, that's an aggressive timeline, but I hope that it's possible it can be done that quick.
What was the question?
The timeline on the ordinance changes for commercial property, we're hoping my personal goal is 90 days. Yes, ma'am.
I know that some situations, like with homes, I reported several places, that have been really run down.
So just choke up on there.
Some of the homes that I've reported, and other people have reported, there's nothing they can do about it. They can go out and put a notice on that home, but particularly if it's empty. And I know that the problem you come across is a lot of times you can't find the owner. Some of the owners live out of state, and some of them aren't even traceable anymore, because I've heard some stories. And also the businesses that I've reported, like particularly on Jenkins Road there at McFarland, close to the gas station, that mess, that's been reported over and over, and nothing's been done. So businesses is an important thing.
Yeah, the property on Jenkins Road is a commercial property. It's been reported several times, and at this point, code officials haven't had the authority to do anything. As far as the blighted, burned out properties or abandoned structures that are falling in, that's where we mentioned earlier, we're starting that process this month, and there's a notice in the paper. We'll have 2 public hearings to get that passed, where Matt will have that authority to start down that path. So what we'll have to do is notify any interested parties or any lien holders or property owners, anything. And so there's quite a lengthy process that has to be done. So most of those are probably going to take 60 or 90 days unless the property owners come up and agree. But the ones, if we go through the process and we have them subpoenaed to court, and they don't show before the judge, then the judge has the authority to give us the clearance to go in there and tear it down. And so that's what we're going to do this year on some of these properties. I put some pictures in, show a couple of them up there real quick. There's 3 of my added you can show. But these are just some examples of some that's on the north end of our county that have just been setting, where code enforcement has been working these cases and been trying to get the property owners to do something, and they're just totally ignoring us. So the final step, the only option they give us, is for us to take them to magistrate court to get a court order for it to be cleaned up. And if they don't follow that court order or they don't show, then the county's going to go in and level these and take them to the ground. So that one there is on Jenkins Road. It takes time, plus we haven't had the ordinance, and so that's where we are now, trying to get this done. Yeah, one second. She's got the floor.
I don't think I'm sure everybody can hear me. The laundromat, I'm sure. It has not been as bad as we thought it would be, but when the guy got the okay to build this laundromat, the rundown condemned home beside it was supposed to be, that was in the law, that he was supposed to remodel that home for someone to live in, to oversee the laundromat. That house has been there for 2 years since he got the laundromat, and it's still run down with boards, rats running everywhere. It's awful. It's awful, and it looks hideous.
And what she's speaking of, for those of you in the back, there's a laundromat that was built in 2016 on Wilson Road, and right next to it, the same property owner, Dennis Keene, who's a developer, bought that same property. It was a blighted property, and he promised the community that he would remodel that house and get that house back in condition and put someone in that property, and he's yet to get that done.
You know where he's at, so why can't you get him and get him torn down, or get him fined, or get him?
Yeah, so we've got that. We've got
It's supposed to close at 11 o'clock at night also, and it's 24 hours a day.
There's been a lot of,
Shannon, this lady right here,
Shannon, can y'all hear me? 'Cause I can't tell. There's been a lot of drug activity down there. We lived, sadly now, we used to live in another part of the north of the county. Now we live in another part because we semi-retired. So we get to see full-blown action down James Street, because we live, on Mountain View Estates. So we get to see a lot of drug deals. We get to see how often the sheriff's department gets to come to the laundromat, to the apartments. I do believe Dennis owns 3 of those homes actually behind the laundromat, and he is able now to afford to fix those up, because I know him. I used to be in real estate, I worked with him. Then you've got, and the sheriff's not here tonight, is he?
No, I was hoping he would be. Is there anyone here from county police, sheriff's department?
Well, anyway, besides, I could not tell you how many Norway rats are infested in the north end of the county. A lot of that has to do with the rain, but it also has to do with standing water that's in certain areas. You've got the houses like those and these that are obviously. Then you've also got another issue with mobile home parks. You've got why can the health department not come in and do things when people are living in homes that shouldn't even be inhabitable? And I understand people with disabilities that can't clean up their property. I'm willing, like I know other people, my daughter and other people, because she was even involved with it in the beginning when you guys did have the teams that went out and tried to help clean up. So I know there's people out there that would be willing to help do that. For the ones that legitimately, can't physically or mentally do the property. And that's different than somebody that's just being lazy or trashy, ignoring the law, whatever. And then people like Dennis and other people that have properties, but because they don't live in the county, they just like if they don't care. And then you've got the mobile home parks, which everybody in Chattanooga, if you say Rossville, it's trash. It doesn't matter that there's some beautiful places, it doesn't matter that Walker County is a beautiful county. It's just an automatic, it's just trash. And the thing is, there is so many drugs. I mean, there's so many domestic violence. I know for a fact one of the detectives told me they get so many calls for domestic abuse, you know, and we see it all over. I mean, we've even had to make some calls about things. People with guns, pulling guns and knives on people, people stabbing people. The drugs are coming in, most of the drugs that are in are coming in out of Chattanooga from that Workman Road. And then if you go up James where it curves around up the hill and goes into Chattanooga, that back way. I mean, and sometimes there's cars flying down James Road. They've got to be going 60, 70 miles an hour at least. I'm not kidding. The guy they chased that time, he went down through there. I mean, it's just, and when the weather gets warmer, it gets worse, you know, because more people start coming out. But you know, I wish Steve Wilson was here, and because there's just, I know it's overwhelming, and it is overwhelming, because for so many years, nobody's given a crap about this community. And my grandparents lived here, back when Ladine shop personalities, you know, Francis shop and everybody else was here, and it was beautiful. I mean, you remember all that? And, you know, that's, I mean, all the women from Lookout Mountain and everybody came shopping there. And, you know, like City of Chickamauga, people in there decided they wanted to make a change, and they did. And now look at it. Look how far it's come. Even people in Lafayette are trying to, you know, do some things. So it's not, it's obviously affecting property values. I know you have to know that from a real estate standpoint. Catoosa County is far ahead of us. I'm not a realtor anymore, so that, I mean, that part doesn't matter. But property taxes does matter, because that does affect all of us, and it affects your office, I would assume. So these are all things, and just like the mobile home parks that are just, they're not, I cannot believe that the health department would go in there and say, yes, these are okay. I mean, and kids are living in these.
Yeah, everything that she's outlining is real. I mean, these are solid issues in our county, and I'm glad that y'all are here tonight, because it's going to take a groundswell of people to get involved to make changes happen. There's no one person can do this on their own, and so it takes this. So thank you for being here so we can work on these changes. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want codes or streets? You want me to talk about the streets first or codes?
Whichever you want to talk about. You want to come up here?
You've been in our subdivision.
Can't hear you.
David,
Come on, come on, they can't all hear you. And we're going to come to you next.
David brought you through Bentley Place. Remember the condition it's in. Two businesses. We have two businesses in a residential neighborhood, which should not be there. What are you going to do about the codes for that? Businesses and write it down. And I've got the addresses here, and also that swimming pool in the front yard. I've got addresses, okay. Another thing is, the last time they paved in our subdivision, they missed a road, and it's crumbling, which is Terry Street and Bentley Place. And another thing, from the 100 block of Callan Drive, I have called your office, I've called the road department, I've called all these departments trying to get them to repair it correctly. This is where they put in sewer years ago when Beebe was in office. Then while you were in office, they came and dug there again. The road is sinking down, and they keep throwing a little bit of gravel on it and a little bit of substance, and it washes away. When are they gonna permanently fix this little piece? It's not the whole subdivision, but that's all I ask them to do, is just to fix where it's, potholes and sinking down.
They put coal patch on it, and it washes out, it gets beat out. And they never do cut it out and put a hot patch in it, They've been out there twice with coal patch on it, and it just gets beat back out.
Talking about the roads, the roads are just in horrible shape. And what we have started is we've had an engineering company do an assessment on all the roads in the county and use a grading system that the state uses. And right now they're in phase 2 of that, of doing a culvert assessment or any type of drain tiles that go in under any of the county roads. They're telling me already they've already got over 4,000 culverts that they've identified, and they're GPS locating those, sizing those, and giving us a condition of those. So we put that in a database and look at how we prioritize these things, and also with the road repairs and repavement to be able to start systematically working this based off the grading system. But also, most importantly for the grading system, it puts us in a strong position to be able to apply for more grants through GDOT and through the federal government to get additional funding for road paving. One thing I want to say is thank you all for voting for T-Splosh. If T-Splosh hadn't passed, folks, we would be in a bigger mess than what we are. T-Splosh is coming in higher than we had anticipated, which is a wonderful thing. T-Splosh is coming in about $300,000 per month on average. So that's going to get us about $3.6 million a year. We could pave every road in Walker County, we estimated last night. We could pave all 700 miles of road for about $140 million. And so as you can see, we're going to have to spend this money wisely over time, because we're bringing in about $3.6 million a year. This T-Splosh will run for 5 years. So we're focusing first on the high traffic roads. And we also, the very first road we did was Nickajack Road going up Lookout Mountain. The state of Georgia had told us that that was the second most dangerous county road in the state as far as number of reported accidents. So that one was top priority, being a mountain road, and so we got that done back at the end of November. That was about a $580,000 project. So our roads, since we're having to do repair work and base work on these roads, to repave a center line mile of road, so we've got a 2-lane road, to pave a center line mile of road is going to cost us anywhere between $250,000 to $300,000 per mile.
Would you like
So-
the citizens to get out there with that project?
So we basically are getting enough income in each month to do a mile. So we are building these funds up. We have, Joe can, yeah, he's got the list up there. These are the roads that are in phase 2 of what we're doing. We had the Nickajack Road and also Diamond Circle. And then you can see the red marks on the map is the phase 2 projects that we'll be letting these out for bid in the coming weeks. And these will be hopefully done in the springtime. Some of these roads, there's utility work that's to be done first, because we have a lot of water line leaking problems, and water lines that are too small, and water lines that won't support fire hydrants. And so we are doing an assessment, and we have done an assessment, because if you upgrade your water line size and relocate the water lines out of the center of the road, you've got to get approval with an engineering study through the EPD. So that study has been sent off to EPD, and we're waiting on approval, because I know one of those roads is Glentana, is a road it's been on the list, folks. Over 10 years? I saw him in here earlier. Where'd he go? Glentana has been on the repair list for replacement of the water lines for over 10 years. We're going to get it done, no matter how long it's been on the list. And we're also going to put in 6-inch lines and get the fire hydrants there. You've got Dry Valley Road and Smith Road have all got water line issues, fire hydrant issues. And Osborne Road and Glass Mill, and there was one other Five Points Road is also getting water line updates and fire hydrants.
Will there be some more that are on,
Yeah, this is just phase 2, because we're gonna keep going as the funding comes in, we're gonna keep going, and we're gonna pave every year. Okay, let me get her here next. Oh, I'm getting out of order here.
And some others than myself were wanting to know about the flea market. What is the deal on that? They were collecting cars, and I noticed that 2 of the cars were gone, and now they've just got 2 junk cars down there.
The flea market is a huge problem, and we tackled that back in 2017, and they had a lot of things there, furniture-wise, that was growing mold. And the 27th flea market there across from the Bentley place, and so we were able to, due to a health risk, anything that was growing or had the potential to grow mold, code enforcement's had the authority to have those things, to cite them to move those things out of there, and they did so. The problem that we've got is the way the ordinance is written for that type of operation, they're grandfathered in. So once we determined that back in late 2017, we passed an ordinance that prohibits any new flea markets or yard sales anywhere in the county to last more than 2 weeks. And so we did it for 2 weeks because you do have the world's longest yard sale and a lot of people participate in. So we didn't want to, mess that up. But we figured somebody's got a yard sale more than 2 weeks. The ordinance says they got to clean it all up and put it in storage enclosures every night after 14 days. And so that would keep that from ever happening again. But as long as the current owner is there, so we need y'all to be our eyes and ears. If you ever find out or hear the current owner's not there, we need to know like really fast. Because as soon as it changes hands, we can go in there and take care of that one. But they're grandfathered in at this point. But I would love to get that cleaned up. You're next, right?
Okay. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the fact that you accept your position. And however, we are a democracy, and we the people have the right to freedom. Is that better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, we worked hard to get you elected. And what have you done? We are 2 years into this election. You did not respond to my letter I sent a few weeks ago. It's been a month. I wrote the governor, and he replied to my letter. He has to state, you only have 1 county. The factories that are empty remain standing on the same land. Zoning and ordinances have not changed the condition of homes. Trailers and homes have the same broken windows. The water bill and land taxes were inadvertently used to wipe out debit left behind by the previous commissioner. We could stop digging into the middle class working people's pockets to cover these debit. The north end of Walker County, thank you. The north end of the Walker County created neighborhood watch, which I live in Mountain View Estates. So we had a police car that would come through the neighborhood, and we have a sheriff's office up there. I have noticed the policeman does not come through as often as the past. And fortunately, we do live in a good community where our neighbors, we do look out for one another, and we do keep a heads up. The government shutdown cost the United States economy $11 billion, okay? People who did not receive paychecks went to food banks to feed themselves and their families. The working class had to step in, again, and donate to help feed the families. This will result in increased debts to try to resolve the economy, and it will dwindle down to us. This is turning into an endless problem that never gets solved due to lack of action by current politicians. And I also brought with me my water bill, which is just, when I first moved to Mountain View Estates, here's one. $38. Later on in time, came $57.48. Last month, this month, I just bailed $70.92. Now, given the fact that cost of living is going up, yes, we know that. Cost of living's gone up, still and all. I think that the middle, because I'm middle class working, I'm not the fancy lady with a Lookout Mountain. I had to work to get where I'm at, and I do receive retirement. So I have a budget that I have to live off of. And this water bill is cutting into my grocery bill. And it's concerning me, really. And in the letter I wrote you, I was just very honest and said, you know, I thought about, there are single women who are working, and I'm not knocking you men. Single men are doing the same thing, and they're having to work and take care and raise their children, and they're having to feed their children and pay these high bills. And it's getting to the point where it's like, I'll have to buy pasta, or I'm gonna have to cut into my shortcuts. So, therefore, I would like to know exactly what the meaning is of all this increase.
Okay, you want to do water first? Okay, so as y'all well know, we've had a lot of problem with our water system. And one of the things that was a big surprise, I think it was about June or July of 2017, is that one of our main water wells that produces over 2 million gallons a day came under the E. coli. And so when we contacted the state, EPD made a notice to them, which you have to do. They said, well, turn your filter plant on. So we send the word, turn the filter plant on. And that's when they said basically the oath saying, Houston, we have a problem. We don't have a water plant. And I said, well, what's that building on Lee Clarkson? Well, that's the shell of a water plant. The water plant's been partially dismantled, and there's nothing that will produce and purify water. So that's when we ended up having to boil water for a period of time. Talking about a shocker. I wish I'd have known that during the campaign, that a water plant didn't work. Okay? So we had to spring into immediate action, and fortunately, the Georgia EPD worked with us very closely and gave us information of a company up in Pennsylvania that could rent us trailers to be able to put in line to filter this 2 million plus gallons of water a day to get us back online where people didn't have to boil their water. On top of this, our water company, Walker County Water and Sewer Authority, was losing, financially bleeding over $500,000 a year. My first board meeting as sole commissioner and chairman of the water board, the other 4 board members, there was 3 of them, that was their very first meeting. The most senior member on the board had been there, that was his 3rd meeting. And if y'all recall, and you can go back and look at this online in the papers, that's when the tactic was being made and they were shuffling board members. So they was trying to create a position and create a $100,000 a year salary job for the prior administration to take. And so we were able to stop that because I took the previous commissioner to Superior Court before I ever took office to get that stopped. So what we have run into as the board and myself has gotten up to speed in understanding the magnitude of the problem and understanding the financial deficits, which I knew going in, it was losing money. When we had water lines that had been on the replacement list for 10 plus years, and one of those was on Glentana, every year they were promised, we're going to replace that line, we're going to replace the line, replace the line. It never got replaced. Well, it's going to get replaced this spring because I'm going to see that it gets done. We've already sent the report in to be approved. And so when you had a base rate of $11 That's why they wouldn't spend any money on the infrastructure. So basically, we're pulling water 140 foot out of the ground, that's where the pump is. We're running it through the purification, running it through the distribution system, over 400 miles of water lines, delivering it to every business and every house for 11,000 customers plus, to every spigot, every bathtub at your residence, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, at that time for $11. It wasn't sustainable. Just wasn't sustainable. There was no money to start working on these big problems. And so what the board first did is they raised that base rate to $15, and you used to on the base rate got 1,000 gallons of water. They took that away and said, so you're going to pay $15 for the base rate, and then once you use 1,000 gallons at your discretion, it's going to cost you another $3.50 per 1,000. Well, we were able to make some progress, and then we got in and found out that we've got a big sewer problem, and that we had an infiltration problem. And so the prior contract that was in place was all the sewer on the north end of the county goes to Moccasin Bend. They were charging us on what they called sales gallons. And so what the authority sold, we sent them that information every month. They billed us on a per 1,000 gallon basis. That bill would run between $50,000 to $65,000 a month to process the sewer. When they changed over the contract that was signed prior to the board that's in place now, it went to total flow. So where we were paying for about 15 million gallons of water, when it went to total flow with the infiltration, it went to 106 million gallons. So we're receiving revenue for 15 million gallons. We're paying to treat 106 million gallons. So the bill went from $55,000 to $60,000 a month to $250,000 monthly. The filter trailers are costing us $30,000 a month each. So if we had about $10 or $15 million, we could do a lot of good. But what the authority's been trying to do is to stay out of debt, not take on more debt. The Water Authority already has over $10 million worth of debt now in bonds that we're trying to pay down, where they have done some upgrades over time. So we started slip lining the sewer system. We have a very sophisticated camera system that they can run in the sewer line. That's amazing technology. They run this little device through the system. It measures the size of the line, its color, just amazing what it will do. And we find where these worst lines are. So we've done over $900,000 worth of slip lining of these sewer lines. And basically, they come in from the top of the sewer line, and it's basically like an injection molding. And they go and inject and seal these lines up, and they tell us that it's good for 50 years. So by doing that, we've invested $900,000 that we paid cash for to do that. That all come from the rate increase. So we're reinvesting those dollars, because what that's done, it took our total gallons. I think in November, the last one I looked at closely, we went from like 106 million. I think in November it was 55 million. So we made a substantial cut, which lowered that bill to under $100,000. So we spent $900,000. There you see already it's over $100,000 a month savings. So the return on that money is super fast. But with that, we had to do a second rate increase, because we could still tell we didn't have enough base to cover. So the base rate went to $19. And that's what's on her bill here that she wanted me to talk about. And so if you have sewer, you have a base water rate of $19. You have a base sewer rate of $19 to be connected to the system, so you have that service available to you. Then, for every 1,000 gallons that you use, it's going to cost you another $4.65 for the water. It's going to cost you $4.65 if you have sewer. And so on this particular bill, she had 3,218 gallons, so that was $14.96 for water, $14.96 for sewer. Then there's a dollar setter fee, which is where after 9/11, when all across the country, Homeland Security, they were concerned about people coming in and dumping toxics into your water system. And so, or somebody going into a residence and dumping something in. So these centers were put in to help from that standpoint. Instead of billing everybody for those or absorbing that cost, the board at that time decided to put this dollar fee on here. They've been tracking it, so once that's paid out, that will come off. The other thing is a voluntary leak protection plan that we were asked many times about to do, that the board, the current board implemented for $2. You can opt into this program, and it's highly utilized because all the earthquakes and shifting and all that we've experienced is real hard on water lines. So if you have this leak protection and you have a water line break, it will pay or reimburse you up to $500 for that incident, so you're not hit so hard with that. What I would recommend, check your water bill every single month. It tells you your gallons on there, because the average household of 4 across the country will use about 5,000 gallons a month of household of 4. So if there's just 2 of you, you're going to use about 2,500 gallons a month. So it's about 1,250 gallons per person. If she sees, like on her, she's using 3,200 gallons a month and not having to conserve or not really thinking a whole lot about it, that's probably just a touch above the average. So you possibly could have maybe a toilet that doesn't always shut off, or you may have some little minor something going on. So look for those things. It may be something very minor, or a faucet dripping that you don't think much about that could run up, several hundred or a couple thousand gallons on you a month. But watch your bills every month, because what we see happen is the creeping of these bills, because leaks normally start out small. And you go from 3,000, next month it's 4,200, and next month it's 5,000, and it creeps up. All of a sudden, when it hits double, you go, whoa, what happened? And they look back and they've seen that you've had this increase for 3 or 4 months and you just didn't realize it. So look at your gallons every single month. Look at how many people are in your household. Do the quick math so you'll know what your target needs to be. And I'm not talking about being conservative. I'm not saying, hey, you brush your teeth, turn the water off. Just use your normal daily usage. Take a shower or bath every single day. Don't even try to conserve. Don't even think about it. And you still ought to be in that about 1,250 gallons, 1,300 gallons per person per month. If you see a spike, you need to look into and see what happens. Especially if you see on the news where there's been a tremor or an earthquake or an explosion or anything like that that can cause vibration, check those water lines. Also on the top of your meter, if you're capable of going out and pulling the lid, there's a little red dial. If you've got everything turned off in your house, go out and see if the little dial's turning. Because if you got any leakage or anything at all, that dial will be moving. Any movement at all, if you've got everything turned off, you need to check and find out where that water's going. And one reason I keep going to this guy right here is because I know he used to work for Tennessee American. I know he's got a lot of experience and knowledge with water. Yes, sir.
Did they approach you about buying the system? The sewer also, I know they're looking at buying the sewer system in Rossville. Tennessee American is.
Yeah, I think Tennessee American wants to own the country.
Well, I mean, like they did in Whitwell, Tennessee, they took over Whitwell's water system, and I asked a question about, the impact on the people that live there, about how long it takes to pay it back. The water company's thought is, we're gonna give it 125 years, we don't care how long it takes to pay it back. We don't want to put a burden on the people there. We just want them to have water. So that was my thought.
Well, what happens if you sell your local system, you lose local control?
Well, I mean, they've been in Chattanooga since 1895.
And we still.
We done a very good job.
So, I mean, it's always an option.
That's what y'all do, get out of the water business.
But one of the things that was in your letter that we've not talked about tonight that I think would be very good, you talked about economic development and industrial buildings and things. So I'm going to ask Robert if he'll come up and kick us off talking about economic development, and also give us an update on the Coats America building, if you would.
Shannon, just a minute. Getting back to the work area, you know there's homeless people living behind it. Now, if Mr. King can get the work area in, why can you not go tear that house down if he's not gonna meet his contract like he's supposed to?
We're going to reach out to Mr. King and see what we've got to do to resolve that issue. Okay, Robert?
Hey, thank you. Let's kind of shift it over a little bit to economic development, which is a big part of what is the opportunity is in Rossville right now. And I want to acknowledge Elizabeth. Elizabeth, would you stand up and let everyone see who you are? This is your Rossville native, and she is doing great work right now. And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot and let you come up here and briefly tell everyone the local efforts that you're making. And if you would, you may get mad at me, but I want you to talk about the Georgia Tech opportunity as much as you can, please.
You never get mad at you, Robert.
Thank
Too
you.
good of a
That's
partner. So a lot of the concerns that you all have here tonight, how many of you live in the city of Rossville? Will you raise your hand? How many of you live in the county with a Rossville address? Raise your hand. How many of you used to live in the city of Rossville, but no longer do? So a lot of the challenges that the county has, we also have within the city limits of Rossville. We also look at those as opportunities. We heard you during the election of this current commissioner and through the Wilson Road Neighborhood Group. The codes enforcement and zoning were issues. We had a large public convening last year and worked on an urban redevelopment plan for the city of Rossville and created a work plan. Number one is codes enforcement. The issue that's challenging both for the county and for the city around codes enforcement is having enough bodies to be able to enforce the codes. I think that's a hard position to fill. The city of Rossville has actually had a public opportunity to be able to solicit for a full-time codes enforcement officer in the city of Rossville. The challenge is finding someone that has the credentials that are certified to do that. So we have someone in the city that's had to wear multiple hats to try to get that done. What we realized is a lot of our zoning was so dated. And that's one of the things that the county has realized as well. And so we've been working together with professionals that we've been able to hire and contract with through grant funding. It hasn't been funded by the taxpayer, it's been funded through grant funding to bring in technical assistance to help the city of Rossville do an overhaul of the zoning. And I know the county is working on the same thing. So we do have a new set of zoning requirements in the city of Rossville that was compiled in working together with our planning commission, our council and mayor, and a professional planning practitioner. We don't have anyone on planning staff. We have a planning committee and commission, both in the city and the county. But most people sitting on that are just incredible volunteers that are volunteering their time and are serving their communities the best they can, but a lot of them do not have the expertise to be able to do a complete zoning overhaul. So we have the accessibility both in the city and the county to utilize some community partners. And so that's what we've been doing. And I know the frustrating thing is we're ready to have it tomorrow, we're ready to have it yesterday, and it's really difficult. And there's a legal process that has to go through both the county and the city to make sure that those are legally binding. We in the city held 2 public hearings. We had no one attend one of them, and we had some citizens attend the second one. Your input here in the city is very important to the priorities of the city and what we're working on. What we realized is there have been no large planning effort in the city of Rossville around economic development. So we worked really hard and found some opportunities on the state level. We started creating relationships. And what Robert was mentioning is that we had solidified a very competitive 4-state partnership with this Georgia Tech. And so we kicked that project off next week, and we'll be working with them for the next 6 months in the first phase to come up with an economic development strategic plan. I know a lot of you, another plan, talking about things and what have you, and I understand the frustration. But the city of Rossville deeply needed to have a thorough plan to understand what industries to go after. We are working with a very small budget in the city, and we needed the technical assistance to be able to bring in for that help. And so we realized very quickly that we needed people that had been successful before to do this revitalization effort in the city. So we have an urban redevelopment plan. We have a completely new zoning ordinance. We have this partnership with Georgia Tech. We brought in professional architects and planners to work on a large revitalization plan, the first phase of it, which was done through an urban redevelopment workshop last year. We have received multiple grants to be able to contract with professional practitioners that know better how to sort of bring our city back to life. We, as a lot of you probably noticed, we did a first phase rehab of the Duck Pond project. We received a $20,000 grant to do a rehab of that park. What we were able to do is talk to a lot of community partners. We took that $20,000 and turned it into $90,000+ and growing to do that rehab. Taxpayer dollars were not spent on that. It was community in-kind partnerships. There was some labor of some county and city, but all of that was done through community partnerships. It was not spent out of the general fund. That has now, that $20,000 that we still have that will go into a larger public art project that you'll see probably around the middle of this year to early fall. That Duck Pond rehab was a catalyst to now the acquisition, or the over $300,000+ of property was just purchased in and around the Duck Pond. And an additional amount of capital was put into rehabbing some of those buildings. We have 7 new businesses that just launched in the city of Rossville. Did any of you know that? Right. So the challenging piece that we have in the city of Rossville is getting the word out to all the great things that are going on here. We have a very small staff and they do the most with the least. We are working really hard to make sure that you all are aware of the great things that are going on in the city. We have great partnerships now with the county. We're working really hard together. We have some very active property owners on the mill site who contracted out with a great architecture firm out of New Orleans, who will be doing a master plan for the mill site. And the first draft of that actually is going to be presented to those mill owners next week. And that particular developer and planner, they're going to be working with us on the Georgia Tech partnership. And we're very, very excited about that. I could go into a lot of other things that we don't have time for. Yeah. And so we're excited about the momentum here. We understand that we still have challenges. We understand that you all are ready to see something visible change. So are we, I can promise you that. But we had to sort of get our house in order first. And so we had to get the policies in place that would make development not a prohibitive thing, just like the county is working really hard to do. We had to create the relationships on the state level to make sure that we get the experts here in the city to work with us. And we're sharing all of those resources with the county as well, and we're working really hard with the county. And so that's a quick update. If any of you have any specific questions, feel free to grab me.
Aren't y'all glad now that Elizabeth is on the Rossville team? Isn't that incredible? That's a wonderful.
Thank you, Bobby. There he is. Bobby, stand up. Do y'all know Bobby Wilson?
Yes.
He's very important to us here in Rossville, even if you don't know him. Do you want to speak for 1 minute? Because we've only got 17 minutes to go. Come up and say hello. You got a question?
Hey guys, I'm the mill owner with Mr. Gray, and we've been working diligently with Elizabeth as far as what we can do and what we can't do. You know, we put together a great partnership with players. Y'all got something here in Rossville that, hey, they produce more basketball floors than anybody in the world. When I first took it over, they was ready to leave. Okay, I talked them into staying. Now they want to bring their whole corporation over here and be part of what we've got going on. It's kind of limited about what I can talk about, but we're in the process of tearing down some of the buildings, but we're having to wait on abatement letters from the state and so forth. We have to do it legally and get rid of all the asbestos and do it in a timely manner. So, kind of catch you guys up.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the investment I'm going to give an update real quick on the Coats America bill. There's several people.
Yeah, we'll cover some
You
other
bet.
topics.
A lot of people have already asked about the Coats America building, the former Coats America building. I want to give you a real quick update on that, and then we'll get into these other things. I spoke with the project manager for cleanup. I'm not going to go into some long dissertation here about what happened there, because I think you all know generally what happened at the Coats building. So So I don't want to invest our time in listening to me yak, but we want to talk, we want to hear from you, not us. But I did speak to the project manager today. We have about 25% of the contaminated material that was in that building has already now been transferred. The EPA approved phase 1 for the company that we hired to do this. None of us are experts in hazardous cleanup. I didn't even pretend to. Shannon and I both said, nope, we're going straight to professionals when this happened, because neither one of us know what we're doing on that. And it's not a laughing matter there. That's serious business. We hired Marion Environmental out of Chattanooga to take this project. They have among the greatest reputations in the Southeast for this type of work. 25% of the contaminated material has already been shipped to Alabama, and Alabama being the closest authorized EPA disposal site. Yeah, that's right. And the entire phase 1 plan from the EPA is approved, and so we're in that. I think it's going to be about, he guessed today, probably around the end of the month, it'll all be gone from the site. However, phase 2 begins then. This is EPA, this isn't Robert, so I just want you to know about this. When phase 2 starts, that part requires the company that is doing this work to go in and test the concrete on the floor of that old mill and check for any PCB problems there. And then take samples from underneath the concrete just in the event that it permeated through the pad and got into the dirt. And I don't know how long that's going to take, but in this case, we're absolutely at their mercy and their timeline there. But I did want to provide you an update, because that's going to be an important part of us moving forward economically in Rossville. That's going to be a big piece. So we will continue to keep you updated on that. Janice?
Oh, yes, I have a couple things. First one, just a quick question, hope to get a quick answer from you. On the economic development front, how many businesses have we reached out to invite them to come here? I'm not asking for names or any of the non-disclosure.
No, I understand.
And how many have come to us without us reaching out?
Okay.
Do you have numbers of?
We do. Right now, there are 7 companies that we are talking with. In other forums, I have talked about this process again. Afterwards, I'll stay here as long as you want to talk about these processes, but I don't want to sit here and use your time that way of how these things work. But when a company calls and is interested in a piece of property that we have in Walker County, publicly owned property, or it can be private individuals, any way where there's a spot that would be of interest to a company, I would be the person that would receive that first contact, and we work with our partners at the JDA as well, the regional partnerships for economic development. I would invite them to come see us, the property that we have, tell them all about it. They always want to know about the workforce that's available, and they want to know about the price of the land and utilities and all those things you would expect. And usually when it's a big company, it gets a code name from the state. A project like Project Gingerbread is one that's still ongoing in the county right now, where a company out of Germany is interested in coming somewhere, but they're looking at 8 to 15 different sites across the United States. And so we bring them in, woo them, and try to tell them how the great attributes that we have here.
Is it 7 total to date or current?
It changes every day.
Okay. How about
Janice,
any that have come to us that we haven't reached out to?
well, that happens all the time, yes.
Okay.
And if we see a unique fit or a need for a particular retail situation, like you guys, I am so grateful that you passed the alcohol ordinance, and I know some people are not going to be happy about that. This isn't a moral argument I'm making, but economically, that opened us up to be able to recruit these higher-end restaurants that before we were reaching out to them and they were saying, sorry, if we can't offer our full menu 7 days a week, we're not going to invest there. And it wasn't personal, it's just business for them. So thank you for passing that, whether you drink or not, is not what I'm talking about here. It gave us the opportunity, and Rossville is a prime location for one of these restaurants to come here. Those we reach out to, many times, it's other companies, site selectors reaching out to us because we do have a lot to offer. One side note I want to make to you, for you here that I think you'll find of interest is that Shannon and I made the commitment when we first got in these jobs that we're not giving Walker County away anymore. It's not going to happen. When they come in here, they're always wanting things for free, and that's part of life. My past life, I was in the Coca-Cola business. Every time I went to build a new Coca-Cola facility, I sure was asking for stuff. I don't blame them, and we don't want to vilify these people. We love them, and we want them to come here, but we're here to protect our money, not their money. And that's how that has to be. Shannon and I talked about this, and we resolved to each other that every time they come in and say, what's your workforce like? How educated is your workforce? Will they be able to do the jobs we have? And we tell them about that, and then the very next thing they say, how about abatements on school taxes? They don't want to pay school taxes. And so
I don't either.
we resolved, Shannon and I made this commitment to each other, and we made it, we're not abating school taxes. If you want to come in as a company, it's going to be beneficial to the citizens, not a drain financially. It has to be economically advantageous to us as the owners of this property we own.
It's about time.
Well, thank you for that encouragement. I really appreciate that because politically, I guess, it's always, a person can be in an office and start giving away the farm, and then the company comes in and they say, hey, look at me, I brought this company. No, you gave the county away to get that company. And we're not doing that. And Shannon's my pal, and I work with him every day, but I want to acknowledge to you the discipline that it takes to do that. That's real, folks, because you have the ability here between us. I mean, you can give stuff away. It's serious.
Especially when they're asking.
But we're gonna hold you accountable.
We're holding ourselves accountable. I would expect you to do the same thing always.
Can I have another?
Okay. Your question.
I have something I want to say.
Oh, you want to say it?
Yeah, I do.
Say it. Oh, let me say one thing real quick. I want to say this a while ago, out of respect for everyone's time, I would ask everyone, when you speak at these kind of things, and we're coming back for another one and another one and another one, let's keep it off the federal stuff, out of respect for everyone that's here. I saw several people already got up and left because it's getting late, and I know why they left. It's because we got started talking about federal government and all that we can't affect change in here for now. And maybe 5 minutes. Maybe. We'll try.
You gonna limit me now?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying if that's what we all agree to, that kind of keep it where it rolls and we deal with Rossville and Walker County.
My husband and I, we moved from a town down south, way down south, almost in Florida. I've lived there all my life, never moved anywhere. We made the choice to move here, okay? But we came in through I-75 through Fort O. We found we found a place at Mountain View Estates. When we went there, beautiful community, it really is. When we moved there, everything was fine. About 3 months into it, the people behind us at Home Place, there was yelling. There was cussing at the children. There was dogs barking all day long, all night long. Dogs coming on our property, scaring us. We walk our dogs on the leash, we pick up after our dogs. But these dogs were coming onto our property, pooping on our property, you know, and making it look like that it, you know, maybe our dogs was doing it, you know. I have bad health. To look at me, you wouldn't know it, but I have really bad health. And I go, and I have to lay down at night, or even during the day, early. And behind me, there's a little guy, he's got a motorbike. And my mobile home backs up to the home place. I'm only 50 yards from that place. And this little guy on this motorbike goes around and around and around all day long, just in that one spot. You still got the dog. Cats are running rapid like you had never seen. Trash on our property. Trespassing like you'd never seen. We can't even open our windows for all the noise and the nuisance and everything that we receive back there from this property. When we decided that after we got settled in, we were going to go up to Chattanooga. We had not been that way. When we did, oh my God. The mobile home park beside us, which is home place. I've never seen such a slum mobile home park in all my life. Then you go on down, it's nothing but a junkyard. Burnt homes, all the way up Wilson. People walking up and down the road, riding in the middle of the road. People riding their lawnmowers down the roads. People riding their electric wheelchairs down the road. I had a man one time, we were at Cracker Barrel, and we were talking about the weather. He asked me where I was from. I was ashamed to tell him. And he said to me, he says, well, where are you from? And I told him Rossville. He said, you mean Slumville? I was severely embarrassed. I honestly was. And that's exactly what it is where we live at. The nuisance from the noise, the dogs, the cats, the men yelling out there constantly, the loud noise of the radios, the thumping noise. You know, I can't rest in my home. I can't. And it has caused me to have more problems. If I had known this, or if I had even took a left turn out of Mount View Estates, I would have never, ever moved here at all.
Thank you for sharing that, and I think these codes, updating these codes is the absolute first, and it's the necessary step. The rest of it's just talk. If you don't make enforceable code updates, nothing's gonna matter. And I heard a couple of people have said to me tonight when I've been walking around, why didn't you do this 2 years ago? And we agree with that, absolutely, because this is what we've talked about all along. But the thing, you get in there and, you know, you get dog and cat issues and animal issues, and it can get away from you like that. As long as you want to be kind of disappointed in the timing, Shannon and I are both here to listen to that all day long. And we'll take whatever we need to take on that to get you right with us, and let's fix it now while we can do it. And you've got people that really want to fix things. Even if it's late, if we'll do it together, we can fix it right now. And we're committed to that. Yes, sir.
I think a lot of that issue is gonna be a long-term problem because you gotta do something about the rent factor. If they have cheap rent, that's gonna bring a lot of people over here. And, you know, I hear all the time, how much you paying rent? $500.
So I can speak a bit about that from the city's perspective, which I know, again, like we discussed, we're sharing a lot of resources that we come across. One of the largest issues that we have in Walker County, but especially in the northern end, is we have a lot of rental properties and not enough owner occupied. So homeowner stability is a huge issue. Capacity in your local governments, enough hands on deck to be able to help begin to bring in programs, then who's going to run those? And so I think that the responsibility is on the elected officials and the people doing the programming. I know both Robert and I serving in the positions that we're serving in, to try to help bring programming in or work with state level partners that can help us operate that home stabilization program, working on the finance side as well. Because we have a large, in the northern end of the county, if you were to talk to our elementary schools, for example, that's where it hits the hardest. We have a large transient rate, meaning that people are renting week to week, and they're leaving our schools and bouncing around. So I can't remember, and I don't want to misquote, but one of our largest issues in the northern end of the county is people not having a stabilized home that they either own. The state limits a lot of the ability for the elected government to regulate slumlords. One of the largest ways that we can go about doing that is enforcing codes, which I can tell you with the conversations that we're having on the county level, they're really trying to begin to execute that as we are in the city. But we have to stabilize our owner-occupied to rental rate, and that's going to begin to help with a lot of those issues that you're talking about.
Let me add one more thing. Yes. In Chattanooga on Hamilton Avenue off of North Market Street, 20 years ago, you could have bought a house for $30,000. Now it's $400,000. North Chattanooga over there on North Shore, they call it, 20 years ago, you could have bought a house for $50,000. Now you can't touch it for less than $300,000.
When I hear you say that, what that tells me, there's some great opportunities for people to invest in this community now, because we're going up.
I'm saying, I don't
We're
know.
moving forward.
I don't know what plan they.
We're going forward.
I mean, you know, we could be in that same situation.
You've been awful quiet back here, so we're gonna call on you next. You had your hand up.
I live on Ridgeland Road, off of Happy Valley, and we also have problems with people, garbage, leaving and throwing their cans out in the sides, all the garbage in their yard and everything. But not only that, the worst thing is speeding. You live up on the hill, just as you get up, there are people, I swear to God, 60 miles an hour coming right back down. And there's already been 3 wrecks there, hitting the pole, hitting the stop signs. Thankfully nobody died, but one of our neighbors trying to get out of their yard and got sideswiped, totaled their car. My neighbor across the street, he's had 2 strokes. He's afraid to go out and get his mail, and you know, to get hit. So he sits in his truck to get his mail. We help him out too. He's very limited on moving and doing things, cleaning up his house. So we're trying to help him as well. It's very nice.
Yeah, I wish the sheriff could have been with us tonight. Evidently, he had some other commitments that he had to be. Because you're right, the speeding is a big issue, and the crime. And I know he's been very engaged in working and focusing on this area, put a satellite facility in, and trying to do more patrol, because there is a lot of pressure on the crime and the speeding that they deal with. And so we'll pass that road information on to them as well, and hopefully they can.
It's 35 miles an hour, it says, but it also
And it's
has,
curvy.
It also has deaf child playing, deaf children playing.
We've got a neighborhood watch group at Mountain View Estates. A month or so ago, I'm outside. Suspicious character comes along, and he didn't see me, I guess, because he kind of wandered around in front of my place. And he wandered to the house across the road. The lights came on, and it didn't bother him a bit. So I went out, and I said, "Do you belong here?" And he just went out, and it went on. I called the sheriff. I was out there for over half an hour. Judy and David made it home before. I never saw Officer, come out.
Yeah. Yeah, what we're gonna need to do, I'll be more than happy to stay and visit with y'all. We've kind of committed that we would limit this to 2 hours, and we've actually gone over that. And a lot of people are starting to leave, so thank you so much. This is one of many of these that we're gonna do. We will be back. We have 6 more that we're doing across the county. We invite you to attend any of those, or if you know someone that wasn't able to be here tonight, let them know they can look on our Facebook or website and see the other locations. Thank you so much for coming. Encourage others to attend on the next one we have up here in Rossville. Everyone be safe, and myself and the team will be around. We'd love to talk to you afterwards. Thank you.